We are now inserting posts into the mobile service that we have created in Azure. And these posts already have a user ID that will identify each post by their users. So when we read from the post table that is in the Azure mobile service, we can filter by user. And in fact, that is exactly what we should do. We should filter by the user ID, where the user ID is equal to the current user's user ID. So in this lecture, that is exactly what we're going to do. For that, we have to open the history page, the history page.saml.cs, where currently we are reading from the post table, but that is inside of the local SQLite database. It is in this onAppearing method where we have to change this functionality, so we are now reading from the table inside of the mobile service. The rest of the functionality is going to remain the same. We are still going to get a list of posts, and we are still going to assign that variable to the item source of the post list view. But we do have to make some evaluation that we are not currently doing. Currently, with the local SQLite database, we don't have to make any filtering because every post inside of the database is being displayed. In the case of our mobile service, what we have to do is filter the post table where the user ID is equal to the current user's user ID. So I'm actually going to comment this out, this block of code, because we are now not going to be reading from the local database. What we are going to do is reading from the post table, but that is inside of the mobile service. So I'm going to define a new variable that is going to be posts, just like the variable that we had before. But this is going to be equal to a method that we're going to await. Just like we've been doing, we're going to await a method call that will make a request to the mobile service. Now, because we're going to be awaiting an async method, we have to make the onAppearing an async method as well. The method that we want to call is inside of the mobile service. The mobile service, remember that we can access it directly from the app class. And this is getting the table. So we can get the table that is post, and what we do need is to execute a where operation. Our operation that is going to evaluate if something is true before getting the elements. What we have to evaluate is if the posts.userID is equal to the current user's user ID. And what we already have is that current user's information in the app class as well. We created a user variable that is going to be assigned to the information from the user that logins in the moment they log in. And this user, of course, has the ID. Once we have performed the where operation, we can turn this into a list with the toList async method. And this way, the posts variable is now going to be a list of posts. And finally, what we have to do, just like we did before, is assign to the post list views item source the value of that list, like this. And I can add a breakpoint exactly after getting the posts, and I am going to run on the simulator. Now I have here the application up and running. And before logging in, I want to navigate to my Azure portal to take a look at what the application should be obtaining from the database, so I can evaluate better if the results are correct. So here is my Azure database, and here is the user table. We have two users, and here I have the email and the password for each one, and I have their IDs. And we have already taken a look at the first user that last time had two posts assigned. So I can close this table and navigate to the posts table, and we see that indeed we have two posts and both have the same user ID. So one user should return two posts and the other should return none. So I'm going to head back to my user database, and now I can test the application. So I am going to log in with the user that does have some posts assigned, and as soon as I log in and the history page is going to be displayed, the onAppearing method should be executed. And notice that the breakpoint is hit, and if we navigate to Visual Studio and hover over the posts variable, we see that the count is 2. And we can expand this and see that these are 2 posts. So I'm going to click on continue, and we see indeed 2 posts listed. Now, we currently have no idea if the filter would work, because there are only 2 posts in the post table. And probably no filter was made. So to really test the filter out, I'm going to log out. We haven't get rid of this back arrow. So if we click on it, we navigate back to the login page, and I can get the other user's information in here to log in with that credentials. So I am going to log in, and the breakpoint is hit again. And if I hover over the posts variable, notice that now the count is 0. Because in fact, there are no posts with the current user's user ID inside of the table. And I can click on continue, and no element is going to be listed, because no element for this current user is inside of the posts table. So we have now read from the database and created a filter. A filter very similar to the one that we used when the user was going to log in. We are filtering a table through one of its columns, in this case, the user ID column. In the next lecture, we're going to take a look at the great advantage of using the cloud to store this information, by taking a look at how by running on multiple devices, we are still going to have the same data.